Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talkin Wellness, presented by South Florida Wellness Network. Today, we have a special episode, and I feel like I say that every week. I feel like every week is a special episode.
We have a lot of special guests.
But that's where I was going, is that I feel that every time we have a guest, is a very special situation here in the podcast.
We do important work here, people.
Yeah, we do. We every week we try to make it as special as possible. So we decided to boot Kayla again because, we don't like her. I'm kidding. So Kayla's actually busy doing some trainings for work. So she
doesn't like us.
That's the reason. She doesn't like us. She went to do the training, so she's not with us. But no, obviously she's doing great. We talked to her. I talked to her yesterday, I think it was, and she's doing great. But she'll be back hopefully next week with a special episode that we're going to have here with more guests, and it'll probably be a special episode.
Should we mention what that it's about? Or?
I say let's give it a surprise because I feel like it builds more tension when we leave it as a surprise.
I'm with you.
So today, like I mentioned, we brought a very special guest to talk with us, and before we dig deep into this episode of My Story Matters, told you it was coming soon. I want to kind of talk about how I met her, but obviously, I want to present you guys Susana. Susana is a very special person. She is known for many, many great things, and I'm way too excited to have her here on the podcast. But I'm going to give her the opportunity to introduce herself and share a little bit of what she does.
Well, thank you so much, first of all. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, at whatever time you're listening to this or watching. This is beautiful and a beautiful opportunity. I also feel special. From the moment I walked in, this is a nice place, feels like a safe space where you can actually be yourself and this podcast as well. So sad that I didn't get to meet Kayla yet. I was listening to her, the first episode of the My Story series with her story, and it was impressive, very inspiring, and also very brave that a person gets to open like that and help others. So Chris, Mike, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I am Susana Illera Martinez. I'm a Colombian bilingual writer, graphic designer, creative person since forever. I live here in Miami since 20 years ago. No, a little less than 20, more or less. And I love what I do. I've been doing this for a while, first as a hobby, you want to say that, so hobby, writing, but then it became my life. It became my profession, my career, and I am so happy that I get to do that because it changed my life, and I do it also because I know and I acknowledge that it changes others. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. Like I said, it's very special. So I kind of want to share the story of how I met Susana. It was quite unexpected in the sense that, it's funny how the world works sometimes where you just stumble upon someone, you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Well, I guess I'll start the first time I saw her, because I met her 2 Saturdays ago, but we both went to a conference 2 years ago called Rompiendo Stigmas, presented by United Way.
What does that mean?
Rising above stigmas.
Yeah, breaking stigmas.
Or breaking stigmas, cool. Yeah. So it's a Spanish conference here in Davie, Florida, where a bunch of people from the community come, different organizations that help the community come, and we just talk about the importance of talking about how you're feeling, And
that's super cool. And I'm assuming it's mostly Hispanic presence.
All of it. It's specifically in Spanish.
This is entirely in Spanish, and this year was the 7th year because it's every year. And they do it. It's beautiful because they offer to the families. It's a free conference. They offer breakfast, a very good lunch, and all these rosters of speakers, kind of like giving insights and tools and talking about how important it is for those participating in the conference to understand that the stigma of mental health and drug addiction could be hurting your family,
Wow.
and how can you break it. So if you love your family, you should just open your eyes, open your ears, and learn.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I mean, coming from like, I'm Black and I'm Spanish, like I know that those are two of the hardest communities to adapt to mental health.
Yeah.
And
100%.
anything.
Yeah, we have a
health.
beautiful history of toxicity in
Exactly.
families and
Machismo
absolutely.
and toxic male, traditional male.
So,
That's super awesome to hear that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
happening.
and the conference gets full. It's
Oh yeah, so
the-
many people come.
That room gets
sick.
really, really, really full. So I was honored with the opportunity of being the keynote speaker.
Oh, wow,
One
awesome.
of the keynote speakers 2 years in a row. This year I was not speaking, but I had my little table with my books and talking to the community and also sharing with them some workshop that we're working with United Way and offering for the community in Broward County, also to raise awareness about mental health within the family and the community that has like grown-ups with kids in charge or children in charge. So I guess you heard one of my.
So 2 years ago, I heard your beautiful, I guess, talk where you spoke about the amazing character of Bruno from Encanto.
Yes.
And you talked.
But you're not supposed to talk about Bruno.
We're not supposed to talk about Bruno. That's what the song says. But the talk was, I love the name. Let's talk about Bruno, or Vamos a hablar de Bruno. And I remember I wasn't working for South Florida Wellness Network at the time. So I went there with my mother, who she works for Hispanic Unity. So I just kind of came in support of her. And because I didn't have anything else to do on a Saturday. So she's like, come to the conference. I'm like, okay. And I just want to say I loved it because I personally have felt the problems in my Latino community, in my family, of talking about mental health. I have a psychologist as a mother, and I've still found it really hard to talk about my feelings with my family, right?
I believe it.
Yeah.
So it was really impactful for me because I loved the movie, and to see that perspective, it really opened my eyes, and it made me fall in love more with the movie because you gave a really interesting perspective about what it really
I also
meant.
ruined it.
You did ruin the movie. it really affected, how you watch the movie.
You can hear that song again
No.
with the same ear.
But there's
No, let's talk
there
about
are a
Bruno.
lot of movies, like not a lot, because I don't want to make it seem like your message wasn't important, but there are some movies that are like that. They'll make a movie
Yes.
for the kids and they'll make another movie for the adults.
There's
in
one
movie
coming
together.
up actually that I'm looking forward to. Is directed and produced by John Krasinski, the guy from
Oh
The
yeah,
Office.
yep.
If
I heard of
the
it. Yeah.
Imaginary
Friends, that
Friends.
is also like something that I'm prepared. I'm gonna take my box of Kleenex because it's gonna be waterfalls.
I'm just impressed he moved into making a children's movie.
He's been moving in a lot of different directions.
He
since The
said,
Office,
you
yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
I heard him saying something really interesting. Is that whatever he done before this, his daughter never had the opportunity to see him because The Office not appropriate. Whatever movie here and there
War
not
movies,
appropriate.
Quiet Place
So
is
this
not
is
necessarily
the
a
first
movie.
movie or work that I'm gonna do on screen. That he's also gonna act on it. That my daughter is gonna be able to enjoy. And he says that he had that idea, and one of the characters is inspired in the imaginary friend that their daughter has.
I'm
wow.
excited. John,
Me too.
I love John.
Yeah,
I've been a
he's
big fan
amazing.
of John since The Office, A Quiet Place,
John,
that war movie
I
that
can
he
write.
did.
I can write the books inspired in your movie. Please,
You
come
heard
in.
it here.
Come on, John.
Come in.
No, but going back to the conference, I loved the what you were saying, and a year later, you didn't speak this year, but I went this time representing South Florida Wellness Network, which was super exciting, and there was a portion where I think it was during lunchtime where I was just hit with this idea of, let me see if I can meet some of the people around here. Maybe we can find some people for the podcast. And I looked at like 10 tables,
Wow, my luck.
and none of them were like giving me something where I was like, yeah, we can have mostly because a lot of them were empty, and a lot of them were just general community services where I just couldn't see a podcast episode about that specifically for like
Right.
My Story Matters. Maybe for like if we did an episode on the impact of homelessness or something like that, sure, maybe we can bring some people. But I couldn't. I was looking for My Story Matters because I told the the viewers last time we did it is like, I don't know when it's gonna happen, but we're gonna work on My Story Matters. And I was like, I have no idea what we're gonna do for My Story Matters. And I stumbled on your table and
Es suerte.
right, and I remembered your talk, and my brain went, oh, opportunity. So sure enough, I went to the table. I talked to you about the podcast, and surprisingly, you said I would love to, and now we're here. So
No, of course it was not surprised because what you were saying was also very interesting. I love the way that you presented the organization and the group that you work with, and also this podcast, which is what I do, what I was doing there, which is, okay, let's talk about it because it's the only way to address it. If you don't talk about it, then you can't. And then even though I was not presenting or speaking, I was still promoting this workshop that we're doing with United Way for the community that is called Let's Talk About Bruno.
Yep.
We do it in English or in Spanish, Hablemos de Bruno. And is for families, is for the grown-ups in charge, the caretakers of children or even like teens, like that are at home to identify what are the Brunos that we're hiding.
Yeah.
It could be something like an issue, a problem that we think is too embarrassing, like we cannot show it to the world and we have to hide it because it makes people uncomfortable, and we don't mind making ourselves uncomfortable in order to please everybody.
Absolutely.
So it's very important to have these conversations. I was there, so when you brought up what your organization does and everything that you aim to do for the community, I was like, of course, I'm in. And at the beginning, again, I don't remember you from 2 years ago. I saw you, I'm like, hey, here's a book. And you're like, how much is it? No, we're giving them away because United Way also sponsored that part. I was there not selling. I was just talking, and some of my books were pre-purchased for the attendees, the participants. And you told me, which one should I get? And then I gave you my short story collection or the poetry.
You gave me the poetry.
Okay.
Which, funny enough, a lot of people don't know this about me. I'm a huge fan of poetry.
Really?
I
didn't know, and I often.
Yeah, I have a friend in California. Shout out Abby, I love you. She wrote a poetry book, and I remember I was like, not only do I get to support a friend, but I get another poetry book. I love them. So I bought it and I read it, and it was awesome. One of my favorite comedians, Bo Burnham, he has a poetry book that I just think is hilarious. So I'm a big fan of poetry. So when I got the book, you signed it for me, which is awesome. I'm gonna eBay. What's up? No, I'm kidding. No, but I actually dug into it a little bit throughout the week, kind of preparing for this. And I just want to say I appreciate you opening up in that book about your struggles.
Writing poetry is exactly that, breaking stigmas.
Yeah.
Because poetry is not like any literary genre where you get to write fiction. Okay, it could be that you invent or create a poem from whatever, a bird, but it's usually very personal to the author.
It's emotion through words.
It's emotion. And that particular book, it's called Clara. Clara used to be my pen name. When I wrote those poems, I wouldn't tell anybody that I write poetry because I was ashamed. And also, I didn't want people to start digging and reading the poems. I would think, okay, no, I'm basically getting naked here. People are going to see, oh, she wrote this. That means, that person, that day,
Did you
that
start writing
happened.
poetry at a young age?
Very young. And no one knew. And I used to post back then, let's not age myself, but back then I used to post on a blog on the internet, and that was with this name, Clara. And I would get like some comments, but again, no one knew who I was. This was just for me. It was healing what I was communicating in this poetry. And of course, no one was going to know also because I didn't want people to know what I was feeling. Until very, very recently, 2018, I decided, because I'm a graphic designer, to put together all the poems that I had all over the place. I had some in boxes, some in little discs. Very old. I already aged myself. And like different places, even papers and stuff. I was like, oh, this looks so deorganized. And I was reading them like, oh, they're kind of nice. I mean, like, I don't care. I'm just going to just put together a book for me. I'm going to print it, make it, because I saw that there are some websites that do this print on demand thing. I'm going to put it like in my house, in my coffee table, so people that I trust and I care for, if they are interested, okay, just pick it up and read it. It's my poetry from, I don't know, but I'm not a poet. I'm just, I just happened to write a couple of poems. Well, when it arrived, it looked like a book. And I was in shock because it's like, what is this? My daughter and my husband like, it's a book. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't intend to create a book. I thought that I was just going to do something cute for me. And I still had my doubts of putting that outside to the public and to say like, okay, yes, you know what? It's on Amazon type of thing. Because, again, it's me. I cannot share that. Until I realized, and it was like through a lot of work and conversations, that once you write a poem and you publish it and you give it to the world, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Whenever you read a poem, you're not going to be thinking, oh, what was Susana? Why was Susana writing about this? Oh, I wonder who that person was that broke her heart or made her feel so in love. No. You're going to make the poem yours. You're going to rewrite it in your mind. So it doesn't matter who I am, who's the author, and what they were feeling. The poem is yours. So with that kind of like releasing and that, okay, I'm going to just let it go from my hands, my first book was published.
Yeah.
And then it's not a perfect book. No, I acknowledge that it's not the perfect poetry, like a scholar type of literary education type of poetry book, but it was my first work. And after that, I discovered that this was so powerful, not only for me, but for whoever was actually interested in reading what I wrote, that it changed my life completely.
Well, I'll tell you this. And excuse me, I don't remember the name of the poem, but there's a specific poem towards the end of the book, or I guess because your book is divided in two sections, right? It's poetry, and then the second half is
the stories.
Is the story
but
section.
The poetry is divided in 4 groups. I don't know if you noticed that.
Right, but what I meant to say is like there's a portion that's poetry and there's a portion that's stories. Well, there's a specific poem where you start describing tears specifically, and I remember reading that part, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel when I'm like crying. Like that's insane. So I'll maybe in your viewpoint is not this like piece of literary magic, but I will at least say that that's kind of the beauty of poetry, where it's not supposed, in my opinion, to be this like hyper Shakespearean way of sharing knowledge and emotion. It's supposed to be raw. It's supposed to be quote unquote natural and unscholarly, because it's supposed to be emotions. And I've never seen any person describe their emotions as scholarly. You know? Or academic.
Poetry should be like DNA. Like everybody should have their own
way of saying
their own
everything.
way of
And that's why I loved
feelings
it,
and emotions.
because I'm apologize to Shakespeare.
Surprised, but there are people that judge, because obviously it's not. There are people that educate themselves and study poetry.
Have you ever heard poetry in motion? So they say that for athletes or people that are doing things that are incredible. So it's like, and by saying that, I mean like anyone can be a poet. It's just about interpreting your message or your feelings or and putting it out there.
And
so like you're
it's
saying,
an art, and again, art and different types of art are not for everybody.
Exactly,
so what you like is probably not what I like. Actually, also one person can feel or intake the art or the poem in this case different today. For example, if you pick that book in a month that you are something had happened to you and you pick it up and you open the same poem, you might feel it different.
Absolutely.
Because this is not this is basically, keep it in your table, on your table, because it's gonna affect you or impact you in a different way every time that you read it. And if I give it to you and maybe he gives it to you and this poem and you're like,
like,
no,
say you've
that
never
one
had been in
crap.
love. Say you've never been in love and you read a love poem.
Yeah.
And you're like, whatever. But then you fall in love and you read that same poem, it's going to feel a lot different. 100%.
Or the one that you like is not the one that you are going to be, it's going to be your favorite, because you're going to find, kind of like identify with another.
And someone might like that same
But
one.
Absolutely.
You don't. Yeah.
But you know what's interesting, in my opinion, and this is one of the things about writing that I love. I never consider myself a reader. I don't like reading, but I do enjoy. Sorry,
Bye.
But I do enjoy every once in a while when I'm feeling up to it to pick up a short text of like a poem or a short story and give it a go. And going back to Abby, my friend from Cali, who she wrote, she has a poem in there where she talks about having dinner with her family and like completely being like dissociated and not at all aware of, well, she's aware, but it's like she's eating dinner and all the voices on right, and she describes the walls, and I personally have never felt that. However, hearing her describe it was very powerful. So that's another thing that I love about poetry and writing, is that even if you specifically haven't felt that or are not impacted by that, you can still glimpse into the writer's or poet's life by hearing them describe, which is kind of how I feel about poetry in general. For example, Edgar Allan Poe's incredible Evermore poem, right? One of the most famous poems of all time. I've never had a terrifying story where I can equate to the raven in Evermore, right? But it's terrifying because you can glimpse into the eyes of the person speaking, you know, and it's terrifying. It's like, imagine if you see a raven coming into a room and start talking to you like that. So that's what I love specifically about writing.
Healing.
It's very healing.
Reading it and writing it. It's very beautiful. It's healing. Is definitely something. I started doing it in English actually, which was new for me. Definitely. I don't know. We can maybe share a couple that I have.
We can definitely give you the space to do that.
It's very beautiful. I recommend it. I mean, if you want to express yourself, don't think that you cannot do it. Again, I put this in my little bio and on my social profiles. And someone told me, "No, you shouldn't say that," because I put aspiring poet. And it's because that particular thing, I know that I am a poet the same way I'm a writer and I'm an author, just by the fact that I'm writing and I'm publishing and I'm writing poetry, right? So that's something that you have to say. But now it's a joke to me. I know that I am. I know that even though you don't like it, okay, I'm still a poet. But just doing this by being an aspiring poet is like I'm leaving myself open to always get better and find this as a path of knowledge that I'm ready to intake. I mean, I love it. That's what opened to me my mind of basically shifting my career completely, like 20 years later. I mean, it's crazy what poetry has done to me. And right now it's not necessarily my main genre that I write in, but definitely something that is there for me always.
Absolutely. You know, here at South Florida Wellness Network, we constantly share with our clients and with people in the community the importance of finding hobbies or finding things to help you in your recovery journey. We call them wellness tools, right? So I love, we've never had somebody come on the podcast to actively talk about writing as a wellness tool.
Yeah.
Kayla has mentioned it here and there, but I just want to thank you for sharing that, because that's really huge. You know, we've talked about music, we've talked about movies, we've talked about games, we've talked about so many different avenues for wellness tools, but writing is never, you know, it's fun to have an author where we can talk about writing as a wellness tool.
That's beautiful. Listen, and let's make it even like more fun. Obviously, I'm sorry that this is gonna limit the audience being interested, but I don't know if you want to do something fun, and maybe whoever, and in the people commenting on when this is already posted or something, I can give away one of my poetry books. But it's in Spanish. That's why I'm saying I'm sorry that it's going to limit the audience.
Hey,
but
you better learn
if you
some
read
Spanish,
if you like poetry, or if you are curious about poetry, you don't have to be a fan.
Can I participate
I would love
in
to, US only, mail you a book signed.
Awesome.
You already have one.
That's true.
And I
But
can give you one.
I love your stories and your poetry, so I want to support. But yeah, please leave in the comments whoever, and we'll pick a lucky winner, and they'll get one of Susana's books, and you'll be able to read it. And it's gonna be our first giveaway. That's crazy.
awesome.
You know what? Now let me go back really quick to something that you said earlier, which was that you are not a big reader because, of course, I don't want to read. I don't like reading. So these little short poems type of thing. Well, it's funny because I also tend to write things that are short, in short form, like poems, short stories, or children's books, even though that's more complex, but it's a short story per se, illustrated, because of my ADHD. And I had no idea that was the reason, because I got the
I was going to ask you.
That's probably
I was going to ask you, why do you feel like you write like that? Do you feel like you get sidetracked? Do you feel like...
first of all, you asked me to do something 3 months ago, and I'll do it the day before of the deadline, and it's going to be a masterpiece.
Yeah,
and it's a struggle, because it doesn't mean that I was not working my way to that moment. I was suffering and sweating and actually torturing myself for not doing it instead of doing it.
I have clinical ADHD. I'm the same way.
Until the moment that is time to do it, and it just comes up beautiful.
Yeah,
but
you snap into it.
Again, this situation of starting to do a work or a project and then having to, okay, it's time to go to bed or something like that. I'll continue tomorrow. Oh my God, no.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
It's just that immediate gratification situation that a brain,
that's what it
a
is.
neurodivergent brain.
That's what it is.
Yes, it is. So kind of like that gets easier for me. However, I am very proud of myself, because right now, with help, because that's important to acknowledge, you cannot do some things alone. It's impossible. So it's very beautiful that you reach out for help. I'm writing 2 things that are big for me and my ADHD challenge, which is writing my first novel.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Chapters and characters and deep story and all. And also my first chapter book for kids, which is a very beautiful story that is based on real life that happened in Colombia. And that's going to be released in Colombia this year. And
Awesome.
I'm writing, it's 10 chapters, short chapters, but still chapters.
Yeah.
And
that's
it
incredible.
takes more time and more research. And then, okay, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to wait for feedback. Oh my God, it's terrible, because you don't get everything done. Yeah, I'm done. Bye.
It's not instant, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Well, I'll share with you. For some of you might know this, some of you might not. But one of my goals this year is I want to start working on a film that I want to create, and I've began the process of writing the script and how I want it to look. And just like you're explaining, it's like I'll for literally like 30 minutes, I'll be like writing all these ideas down, and maybe I want this story to go this way, and then the next thing I'm like, I'm not feeling any of it. I don't want to do this anymore. And then having to come back a month later and be like, oh, this is where I left off. Man, I don't like this. That's been my biggest struggle. And that's why I've never been good at exactly like you say. I've struggled with ADHD as well. I'll never forget it in high school. Shout out to my English professor in my senior year. I loved him. But he gave us an assignment. We were reading Catcher in the Rye. And like I said, I'm not a very big reader. However, there's something about Catcher in the Rye that really piqued my attention. I guess youth and the freedom of youth. I don't know. But the point is, I read the story, and as our big end of story assignment, he said, I want you to do one of 2 things. I want you to write a poem, or I want you to write a song about a character or an element in the story that you connected with.
Nice.
And I procrastinated. I waited until the night before, like a good old ADHD boy. And I'm like sitting down and I'm like, what do I even want to talk about? And I remembered, if you've ever read the book, there's this character called Allie, which is Holden's brother, or Holden's the main character. And he talks about in the book about how a baseball mitt reminds him of his brother, who I think either he passed away or hasn't seen him for a while. I forgot the specifics, but there's this mitt. And I used that analogy to make a song. And I made the song in less than 30 minutes, and I presented it, and I got an A+. And I'll never forget that experience because I think it's the most ADHD thing I've ever done, where my professor was like, you got literally 24 hours to write this assignment or to make this song. And sure enough, grab my guitar, finding chords, writing, my brother Ali, I'll never forget the way you used to make me smile. And then I wrote, and like you said, it's so interesting how ADHD brain works, where it's like all the inspiration you need. Oh, I don't need is 30 minutes. I got you.
Right.
But it was short.
It's even more interesting when you don't know that you have that, or you're struggling with that one. And then you think that you are terrible, that you are lazy.
That's my biggest
that you
problem.
are disorganized. That's why I got my diagnosis at 45 years old, and people might think, oh my God, that sucks that they. No, it was so relieving. It was therapeutic to know that it wasn't my fault, that it was not me being like this, like that.
That's how I felt.
People like, people now are enjoying just putting tags on themselves with all this mental situation. I'm like, no, I used to put the tags, but they were the wrong ones. I used to say, oh yes, I'm the person that gets distracted, the person that forgets, remembers things that are useless, but forgets every time, has to check the box of Jello for the instructions. Jello. And then, but I can make this or that without even knowing the recipe. And things like that. And then, okay, yes, why do I always miss that exit if I already know the way there? Wow. And you have to justify yourself. Yes, no, I missed the exit. That's impossible. I mean, you always come here. Well, I did. I did pass by. I did keep driving. You're dumb. Sure, I am. And just.
Yeah, isn't that the trouble, right?
As a kid, I was looked at my whole life. Yeah. I was that crazy, rambunctious in the principal's office, crazy kid. I used to screw I would sit in my desk and I would like bounce and the screws would fall out of my desk. And it was just because I was just so hyperactive. And I used to make excuses for homework. I used to say I was a salesman. When I was a little kid, I was a salesman. I knew how to explain every bit of bad things that I did, but all those things were because of my ADHD, because I didn't do my homework, or because I didn't want to listen, or because I was bouncing around, or because I couldn't focus. Because when you're that young at an age, a lot of the things that you're doing are just paying attention or focusing. Right. And my mind was just all over the place all the time. And it wasn't like you said when you were 45, until I was like 24. When my mom told me, she's like, hey, like, you've always had ADHD since you were born. They've told me, like, hey, this kid is off the walls. But I've never wanted to put you on medication because I understand what it can do to you being on medication. Right. Yeah. So it was always kind of like a thing for her. But
it's interesting because now that you mentioned the hyperactivity and everything, that's why, and people ask, why is that you didn't get diagnosed earlier? You said like, oh, I always in the principal office. No, that was not me. I was always with honor roll. I was always with the best grades. I was always getting into every club and the president of the class. Always. So when I tell this story about me struggling, people are like, nah. You're just creating that, like you are creating your stories for your books. I'm like, they don't believe me because I never show it. I never show the struggles to do all the successful things that I did.
Do you feel like your ADHD helped you do a lot of those things?
Absolutely.
Because I was the same way too.
But
I was
that's
like
the thing. The problem
roll.
is that I always put this example is good because you say like, okay, we're always running the same race, all of us,
Yeah.
right, beginning to end, and yes, we all make it. The difference is that when I run the same distance and the same path, I take many steps during that, many like
Detours.
and during that path, that when I get there, you think that I did exactly the same that you did, and I didn't. I did 20 things more, and I am exhausted mentally. And guess what? I don't get to show it. Girls are always kind of like forced to mask it, because hey, the kid could be jumping. Oh my God, boys will be boys, right? Oh, of course,
yeah.
he's so jumpy. Of course, he's a kid. Oh my God, the
Tiene
kid.
hormiga. Tiene hormiga en el cuco.
Exactly. But the girls is like, okay, quietica, please stay quiet. Calladita te ves más bonita. Please stay.
Oh my goodness.
Stay still. And then you
Yeah.
are like, yeah, of course, I cannot occupy a space here. I'm a woman. I'm a little woman, so I have to be on my own. I cannot show that I have these issues. Plus, families, obviously back then, not now. Now it's kind of like breaking. And Hispanic families, because I grew up in a Latin American country, there's the machismo that you mentioned, right? Okay, let's pay attention. If the boy is struggling in school, the teacher goes to the parents. No, he's failing math, he's failing this, he's failing that. Oh my God, let's do something about it. Let's take him to a doctor. Let's take him to an evaluation here and there. The girls, no, she's going to be fine. They have to worry about the boy growing up and being successful, because his responsibility is to be the head of a family. Like, provide for his family. He needs to study more and then graduate and then get a job and be the powerful man that he has to be. The girl can marry, so it's okay. Oh, she's having problems? It's okay. It's okay. No problem if she fails, because she can always marry. So they don't pay attention to girls that much.
Yeah.
They don't used to, at least.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
that era.
And you know what's funny? At least I work with a lot of Latino people here, thank God, and I'm always grateful for that, because I always had a heart to helping my Latino community, you know. But it's incredible that even to this day we still see that.
Yes.
You know, and that's a big reason that I wanted you to be here, because the main thing that I took away from that keynote talk that you gave was the importance of breaking stigmas.
Yes.
Talking about problems. And I feel that now, and we're getting specific because we're both part of the Latino community, but this happens in every family in America, and every family here in Broward, where there's, maybe not every, maybe that's generalizing, but a lot of families it happens where there's this weird belief that if we don't talk about it, it's not going to be a problem. But what we're doing is we're hiding it, or I always like to see it as a monster. Actually, I've used the monster analogy. I'm going to use the balloon, right? A lot of the times when we're blowing a balloon, it requires a lot of energy, right? That act of breathing air into a balloon requires a lot, right? The same thing is with our emotions. Imagine there's a balloon inside of you, and you're constantly feeding air into it by not letting the air go out. So you're just putting air in the balloon. Well, what's going to happen according to physics and science? Eventually, that balloon
It's going to explode.
is going to explode. And the problem is that when it explodes, it's never in the healthiest way.
No.
You know, if it just exploded and made a noise, fine. But when it explodes, according to mental health, you end up in the hospital. You end up screaming at your child. You end up causing a traumatic experience for someone.
Recurring to drugs,
You come back to drugs.
to alcohol.
You come back to that way of thinking that you've worked so hard to stay away from. That's why it's important to talk about these issues in everybody
Yeah.
of mental health. And Susana, I love I went to your website, and all the links to her stuff are going to be in the description. Please follow her. Please look it up. She has some really great stuff, especially for children. Lala the Lizard.
Lala The Lizard.
Your stories of Encanto. These stories about topics that kids can relate to when it comes to identity, when it comes to surrounding yourself with family and with people, right? I loved I was reading a little bit about the Lala Lizard, something about the lights, the festival of the lights, or something like that.
Yeah, the concert of lights.
The importance of that she's trying to surround herself with her friends from the forest or whatever. Like she's trying to surround herself with family to make this thing happen. That's so important to do that, right? We don't often talk about that because we're afraid that we'll offend people. We're afraid of what they'll think of us. We're afraid that it'll open a can of worms that we can't really close down. Please, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, talk about it.
Yes, that book in particular is the third book in the series of Lala the Lizard. I'm sorry. Lala, to just recap really quick, she's a different kind of lizard. Has 3 books so far. The first one I thought it was going to be kind of like an isolated story that I published right after I published Clara, because then that happened. I'm like, oh my God, next I have to this is
I gotta keep
my
writing.
dream,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be for kids, and and I love it, and I wanted to do it bilingual, and I wanted to do the story about a lizard that she's different because she is vegetarian. Her best friend is a spider, so she doesn't eat any insects. That's funny, right? But at the same time, it's a great tool to talk to kids and families, because children's books are not only for kids, are for families. We have to pay a lot of attention, because it doesn't matter if the kid learns beautiful thing from the book if then they sit at the table and they hear the grown-ups talk or do things that are the opposite. So she talks about being different. She's scared about being different. She thinks she's not going to be accepted. And of course, she learns that if everybody was the same, this world would be really boring. So her friend, Ari, the spider, and her kind of like take this journey of in book 2 and book 3 to find themselves spreading that message of not only inclusion and being beautiful, because we are surrounded by a community that they don't look or do or sound like us. We are all different, but we have different abilities and talents. In the second book, they help a fish clean the pond because it's full of contamination, and they come together for this, all the creatures in the garden. And in the third book, they meet this firefly. Her name is Lucy. And it's very important, this topic and this message here for the family, especially with young children. The concert of lights, they are supposed to build to make these lanterns out of bougainvillea leaves and hang them above the pond in little spider webs. And then when everything is hung, colorful bougainvilleas, the fireflies come and they sit on each lantern, and it becomes this beautiful concert of lights. But there's one firefly, Lucy. She's scared to death. She's nervous. She doesn't want to participate because she says, I don't have that light. I cannot shine like all the fireflies are shining. Therefore, I'm going to ruin the most special day of the year. I'm not going to do it. But then Lala and Ari convince her, kind of like they remember that the worth and the value of one creature is not looking like the rest. And like, you don't have to shine like the others. You have to shine like Lucy. Lucy has her own light, and that's the one that is beautiful and unique. So go show them. You're going to make the concert of lights even more special with your own light. So this is something very important in a society that I'm not going to say now, like always has been about showing something that we're not, or showing something that we don't have, the beautiful family picture, the beautiful Instagram post, and the reality is that we are broken, or we are just faking that beauty, standard of beauty per se, just to accommodate to others, to not make anyone uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or like in Encanto, I'm sorry if this is a spoiler, that we have a beautiful house, casita, looking amazing, colorful, and full of magic, but inside it has cracks and it's breaking because we are hiding that. We are not talking about Bruno. We are not taking care of our own family members. To have them be the strength and to have to make the house inside beautiful, not outside. And that's very important. So
Absolutely. And we might as well talk about it now because I don't think we've actually mentioned it. We keep bringing up Encanto, and we keep
yes.
bringing up
Why?
Bruno. Why? Would you like to share with the listeners
The
why
why.
it's so special and really why a lot of the people that I've mentioned that you were coming, I told them this fact about you, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!"
Well, yeah, it's funny because, of course, I love that fact in particular. I don't want that fact to be the one describing me and kind of like
That
And that's
determines
why
who
we
you
left
are.
it
Exactly.
towards
Yeah.
the end.
exactly because again I'm here, but I love it that people see that logo above my head and they say like, oh, Disney, and then just yes, but Lala, and
Yeah.
yes, but this and that. So during the pandemic, end of 2020, I already had published Clara, Lala, the first book, and then a story collection called Lo que escribo en la arena, cuentos y otras cosas que se olvidan. What I write in the sand, stories and other things that are forgotten. That's another ode to my ADHD.
Which you can find on her website in the description.
Yes. And then I was just minding my own business, sitting on December 2020, the interesting year, right? I can't
COVID.
remember what happened. Oh, yes, I do remember.
COVID, yeah.
And to make it things more weird, besides all the traumatic and very unfortunate things that happened,
Yeah.
and also the opportunities that some people took to kind of like recognize things that they could improve in themselves. Not everybody took that opportunity, sadly. And others were too busy suffering, obviously. But I received an email that I thought it was spam because it was somebody at Disney.com, and I thought it was a scam. I thought that, of course, I'm not going to be the one clicking here because it's phishing. Who's going to email me from Disney? It's impossible. I'm just here minding my own. What?
They probably want a subscription or something.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah.
It was like I had to Google that person's name. I went to look for her in LinkedIn. And finally, I determined that was a real person with a real title, senior editor at Disney Publishing Worldwide. We want to talk to you about a project. Maybe you're interested. I'm like, what do you answer to this? After first Googling the hell out of it, thinking that it's a spam or a scam. Obviously, I died, then came back to life.
Yeah.
Answered the email in a very natural way. My husband suggested that because I was hyperventilating and everything. And it's like, just be you, be funny about it. Tell them that you didn't believe it. And that's what I did actually. Like, well, after I verified that you're real, of course I'm interested. I would love to hear more. I'm available whenever you want. And then that person replied back. We ended up having a meeting. And then by then I had seen the trailer. It was kind of like a song, kind of like anticipating Encanto. I heard that it was also, the songs were written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, which to me,
Wepa, what's up?
it was also my inspiration and part of my healing and my saving outgoing tool during the most hard months of the pandemic, which was a pandemic out in the world and inside of my house, struggling with a lot of mental health situations and family dramas. Hamilton was on repeat every single day because since I battle with intrusive thoughts and I can't sleep, I have very bad insomnia. During the night, I couldn't sleep, and then I couldn't be alone with my thoughts ever. So Hamilton, It was all the time. The lyrics are difficult, are beautiful, are powerful. So I couldn't pay attention to anything else. I was just Hamilton, Hamilton, Hamilton.
Yeah.
One of his of the lyrics I actually tattooed in my arm. It says, "I wrote my way out." This is from a song, yes, called "Here Again," where he's saying that he wrote his way out of hell, out of this. Well, I did too. I wrote my way out of depression, out of despair, and out of a career that it was not giving me as much as this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got sidetracked, but going back to that.
No, that's beautiful.
No, that's
yeah.
perfect,
I had the
yeah.
conversation with them, and
You didn't throw away your shot.
No, I did not. I did not. So when I heard that, oh my God, this movie about Colombia and written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, this is gonna be so beautiful.
It was in Colombia as well, the movie.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was
how
inspired.
perfect.
in
It was
Colombia.
based.
How perfect.
It was based in
Inspired by
Colombia.
Colombia, exactly.
Funny.
So this person, 5 minutes before getting into the call with them, they send me a link. Oh, just watch this because we're gonna talk about this. And she sends me the link of the trailer that I was telling you that I was watching. I was, wait, is she gonna talk to me about Encanto? Of course. It turns out that they were working on the movie. It was kind of like less than a year before the release, and they needed some authors, writers. Particularly, they were looking to include, obviously, Latino writers. And they wanted me to write one of the little books that were going to be released along with the movie, and it was going to be bilingual. Are you interested? They keep asking me. I keep working with them, and every time, are you interested? Are you available?
Can you imagine?
Hello.
No, I'm not.
Imagine answering no. Like, that's crazy. So, of course, I died again. I came back to life again. And then...
You have a lot of lives.
And then, of course, I signed a contract. I couldn't even tell anything to my cats. It was like so confidential.
Oh, yeah.
NDA.
Everything that they were sending me was like with all my IP address, and I have the blood type of your relatives. Be careful, don't screenshot, don't share, don't record. Like, it was crazy. And here I found myself with the script of the movie that everybody was anticipating to watch in 10 months. I was reading it. It was not even it was not even completed, because they kept sending me notifications
That's
that,
so cool.
that the document was updated, changing names and changing this. And I was supposed to read this 200 pages script and make it into a 24-page story for children 3 to 5 years
Incredible.
old. Tell me about something difficult to do.
No, that's insane.
Yeah.
So now tell me that writing something for children is easy because it's only 24 pages and
No.
it's so simple.
No.
It's the hardest thing
So hard.
to write less and to write more, take the essence of something that is meant to be 2 hours.
I'm a video editor. I know.
Oh my
You
God.
record 10
Yeah.
hours and have to make a 1-minute video.
Let
It's
me share
like,
this real quick. Before coming to South Florida Wellness Network, I was a preschool teacher. So I've had my fair share of having to read a lot of children's books. And let me tell you, some of these books out there, life-changing. Like, like I said, I'm not much of a reader, but, when you become a preschool teacher, that's kind of a requirement. You have to read these stories for the kids, right? And let me tell you, there's some books out there that are so beautiful. And it is exactly like you say, just a couple pages, 10, 20 pages. And you read them and you're like, this is actually really great. Like, I'll never forget, they had this book where I'm Puerto Rican, and they had a book about this girl who was, I think she was living in New York, and her friend is asking her questions about Puerto Rico. And so she's like, as she's walking, the pages turn into the forests of Puerto Rico, into the
that's so
culture.
beautiful.
And like, yeah, Puerto Rico's about this and that, and like the music and the yunque and the rainforest and the
I
birds.
have so many books that I can recommend.
And-
I'm gonna go to the comments and start like recommending books because yes,
Yeah.
there are books that are
There's so
incredible.
many beautiful
and
books.
now that we finally like breaking also that barrier of writing in our own native language.
Which is huge, by the way.
Again, Disney asked me to do this bilingual. And I
Bilingual
was like,
books, which is
they're
great.
asking me the reason why I started publishing books for kids, Lala The Lizard first, was because I wanted bilingual books in a community that speaks Spanish and English, and that parents come to me during the events. I'm like, oh yes, we just got here from this country X, and then our kid needs to learn English really quick.
No,
and
it's
I'm like,
beautiful.
you don't worry about the English, that's fine. Just worry about the Spanish. They're gonna forget it. They're not gonna want to talk to abuela or tío or tía
Yeah.
later because they already know English and
So
they
true.
are ashamed or speaking Spanish. They're not gonna pronounce it correctly. So here is a tool that it could be a bridge to connect abuela connecting with the kid that lives here. Abuela doesn't understand English. The kid doesn't want to speak Spanish, but they can read together a book that has two languages in one.
Absolutely.
And now we have more books like that, so I would love to recommend a few. And then, yes, they told me that I should write this. It was incredible. It was actually, I was one of the few authors that were Colombian specifically, and the only one at that moment writing something bilingual
That's cool.
for Disney Publishing. But you know what happened after I had my meeting? I signed my contract. I even pitched the idea of what I was gonna focus on for the bilingual story that I had 2 or 3 months to work on. Beautiful, yes. Oh, I even got paid the 50% advance. Awesome. I sat, I opened my computer, I opened Word, and I couldn't write a word. I couldn't, and I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't tell anyone. And I was supposed to be showing this opportunity that, hey, I'm taking my shot, right? But I'm useless. Why did they pick me? They picked the wrong person. Why did they think that I could do this? No, it's impossible. I cannot do this. They picked the wrong person. The opportunity most beautiful in my life. Yeah, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to ruin it. Just like Lucy in the story. That was me saying, like, I can't do this. So
It's incredible.
I had to, by then I was already in contact with a therapist and with a psychiatrist because I was dealing with recovering from a very bad depression from the past months. And then from not wanting to even get out of bed
Absolutely.
to actually like being a little bit more happy, energetic. I have a poem actually that one I would love to share that is called Lipstick, because it's just the fact of getting ready and put some makeup on when you are struggling with depression.
It's very difficult.
It's something that you think, okay, yes, of course I have to brush my teeth, shower. Sometimes you are unable to do that.
Absolutely.
And it's not because you're dirty or you're a pig or you're cochino. I mean, like, it's because you can't physically. It's not in your head, it's physical.
That's why it's so important, in my opinion.
It's important to talk and to say, like, oh, that person doesn't look like has depression. You don't have no idea what's inside.
Exactly.
You don't know how Casita looks outside. That's the only thing that you see. You don't see the cracks inside. So I talked to my therapist, I talked to my psychiatrist, and I told her, listen, I'm struggling with this. I need to complete something, but I can't concentrate. I can't put the work. Susana, I would love to test you for ADHD. Heard for the first time in my entire life. I'm like, me? I am 45 years old. Okay, let's do it. You want to? Fine. Long story short, yes, I had ADHD. So I understood what was happening. So I learned how to cope with it. I learned what to do. I got medication. I got treatment. I got help. I knew what was going on. It was not my fault. It was not that I was useless or that I cannot fulfill that opportunity that was given to me. It's just that I had to learn how to acknowledge in my condition, not my defects, not my labels.
I'm into that. Absolutely.
My condition can be worked. I'm not gonna get cured, but now I know how to handle it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen anymore. I still take medication and I still miss the exit. But I don't punish myself and I don't say that I
One
am
thing one thing we did talk about
I
though
am
with
kinder
ADHD
now.
is how much it helps you.
Yes.
A lot of people think an ADHD is so negative. Without that ADHD, you would not be able to sit down for hours and hours and hours and write either.
No, and
Right,
and
it's that
I learned to
It's
be
that hyper.
I learned to be kind to myself.
Exactly.
And not say that I'm this or that or useless or dumb
Absolutely.
or forgetful, because I was like, now I laugh because I know what's going on and I know how to, okay, let me stop for a little bit. You know what? It's fine. I'm going to take it. I'm going to acknowledge that I have this episode right now, this situation. I'm going to do this then. Or I'm going to write it down because, yes, it's damaging also for your health to leave things for the last minute. Procrastination is beautiful because it gives you a beautiful work, but it's not beautiful for your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have neck, back, sciatica problems. I have a lot of situations where I hyperfixate with eating something or with drinking something, and then that's kind of like what helps you cope. But then you damage your liver because or whatever your I don't know things because you're having too much things with lime.
Yeah.
Because you're obsessed with lime now.
Oh, I see
And
what you're
then
saying,
your tongue's gonna explode because you've been like sucking on limes to cope, and then you're damaging your body too. And
Which is interesting because like Latin American cultures, stuff like that is I'll never forget. I think it was my grandma. I forgot what for, but there's just like if you're feeling this way, you should like bite on a lime, or if you're doing this, you should drink this, or you should do that, or you should, like, all these weird superstitions. And
no, remedios de abuela.
thank you, the grandma remedies. Yeah, it's always so interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention real quick, that's one of the things that I love about working here is that we have person-centered, we try to use, obviously we're not perfect, but we try to use person-centered language here. Basically what that is we try our best to identify the person for who they are, not whatever they're going through. Yeah. A good example, a very popular term to use for a person experiencing homelessness is they are homeless. So the way we try to go about it is like this person whose name is experiencing homelessness. This person is experiencing struggles with mental health. This person is experiencing
because it doesn't define you.
Autism because it doesn't define
it doesn't
you.
Own
Absolutely.
It's like saying you're
you have
ADHD
to take
person.
control somehow of the thing and acknowledge that not necessarily that you can be in control all the time, but that you are in control of the things that you use to cope with it. Another thing that is very easy to say is, okay, that person is disabled. No, it's just that it has a different ability. It has a different way of doing things. You feel useless. You do feel disabled. I cannot get up. I cannot finish this. I have no idea how to get there. And things like that make you feel that you're not able, that you're an imposter. What was happening to me in front of that page of Word, completely blank, was imposter syndrome. I was telling myself that that was such an opportunity to me that I didn't have I wouldn't measure to it. I didn't deserve it. They made a mistake. How did they find me anyway? Why me? Of course, I can't. I'm not a writer. I never study. I would remember, oh, that's not a poem. The poem is not correct because it's... Okay, then if you have people criticizing you, one thing is critiquing somebody's work to improve, or first of all, wait for them to ask you for a critique. And second, do it in a way that is constructive. But things that you say to people are things that could be hurtful or things that could harm.
Words have a lot of impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So you have to be very mindful when you do that. And that the same happens with the words that you use for yourself. So, of course, I was struggling with...
That's a great point that she says that.
Wait, exactly. So, no, I am not disabled. I am not useless. I am just going to be able of doing... I'm going to be able of doing this, but different. And I'm not useless. I am very useful. Just I have a different process, and I'm not going to do the things the way you do. Or the things that I want to do, I just need to understand what's best for me and do it at my own pace and be kind to myself.
Yeah.
Not
Albert Einstein, I always bring up this quote. He said a
Yeah.
long time ago, we're all different animals. So imagine he's a falcon, I'm a cheetah,
Yeah.
and you're a rabbit, and we all go to the same school, right? How are we gonna learn if we're all learning the same, we're all learning the same curriculum, but we're all different animals.
Yeah.
We all walk through different walks of life. We all are gonna fly. Some of us are gonna run. Some of us are gonna be rabbits. So we all have to learn what's our path. You know?
Yes, our path and also our abilities, because parents, teachers, caretakers, children's books are not for children only. There are books that talk about these messages that are important for the family and the grown-ups to learn. Lala, the second book, what I told you about, is about the pond by the rock getting contaminated, and then here comes Lala, a tiny lizard with a tiny spider friend that they think whatever I do is not gonna do anything. I'm just this small piece in the whole. I cannot solve a problem on my own, but being small doesn't mean that you cannot do great things. And because you have one talent and then your friend has another, and then you call your community and then you unite, everybody collaborates for something. So in this case, what happens is that they have a big lizard that comes along to help the ants, the bees, the ladybugs, the spiders, and everybody has a different possibility of helping. They had some amphibians bringing out the trash from the bottom because they could be out and in the water, and then handing these items, and then carrying heavy things, the ants, and then the spiders creating a spider web, and then putting all the trash there and taking it flying somewhere. Everybody contributed because I don't have your talent, I don't have your abilities, I have my own, but together we are stronger.
Exactly.
And then again, you cannot teach the ant to fly or to be able to swim and get things from the water. The same way the amphibian is not going to take off to the sky.
Absolutely.
Here I go. No, but he's being so as valuable or more as the others doing the work. So we have to just understand that we're not all the same. And if we were, how boring.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're not all the same, but at the same time, we're all valuable.
Yeah.
I also like to see it as a car.
We all fulfill a role.
Like the tire doesn't run the motor. The windshield wiper doesn't. It's not where you put the gas in. The windows aren't gonna work the transmission.
Well, the human
I
body.
remember,
but without any of those. But if one of those is not functioning properly, the whole car is affected by it.
100%.
Yeah. And the human body is the same.
Yeah.
100%.
So not only are we different, but we're all valuable.
100%.
Well,
Everybody has value and everybody has their role. And I remember I was very young, and I was like 10 or 9, and there was like the Walmart people, and you walk out and they're handing your bags, and she's such a nice lady. I always remember her. And I remember I said something to my mom, and I was like, I wonder why she works here, like kind of like thing, because like when you're young, you don't, you're thinking like, oh, astronaut, cop, like everybody's gonna be a great job. And my mom's like, at the end of the day, everybody has a job. Everybody's got to work a job. There's a job for everybody. And that's not like to put them down, or that's not to say like, oh, she's a Walmart worker or anything. It's just there's a place for everybody in life. Yeah. And that's not ultimately just to say the work. That's in everything. Everybody has their spot where they're going to fit. My mom used to be a drug addict, and now she's doing what she's doing now. Yeah. So it's just, does that mean that every drug addict can do that? No, because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of just personal determination to do what she does. Yeah. So like, it all comes down to God for me. God picks his vessels, and he picks the people that he wants to fulfill certain roles. And you just got to be extremely happy. And once you realize that this is the role that you've been given, then that's when you can extremely take yourself to the next level.
And yes, and also acknowledge that what you do is also possible because others are doing their job too.
Exactly.
And they're doing something that maybe you don't see. I mean, the fact that we're sitting on these beautiful chairs, I mean, someone made them.
Your wife's a
Someone
teacher, right?
built them.
Yeah.
Teacher's a career that a lot of people
Of
don't like to look at as well. But
My daughter is
it's,
a teacher, and you know what? People think that adults are supposed to teach children, and then you are supposed to teach your kids. My daughter is the person in this world that has taught me more. I've learned from her more than she has ever learned from me. What she sees in me is pure love, but I've made so many mistakes during her
Kayla said the same thing.
childhood. Of course,
Yeah.
like I learned to be a better mother because I learned to shut up and listen to her needs.
Yeah.
And I was not always like that. I hurt her so many times just by not seeing and not watching or not paying attention of what she was trying to teach me about her. And that happens so many times with families where the parents think that they are the big deal, and the kids just have to shut up and be respectful no matter what you are to them. And respect is not just forced, it's earned.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. I cannot ask for respect if I'm not being respectful. Not even to my children. You don't have to love, respect, and treat your mother or father like they are God, because they are not. And if they don't respect you, why you are forced to give them love and respect if they're not treating you like the real human being that you should be? And also being humble enough to understand that you're not always correct, you're not always right, you don't always have the solution, and that your kid sometimes is trying to teach you something that you need to learn or unlearn to then learn the right way.
Yeah.
And again, beautiful. My daughter is a teacher, not only as a profession, as a career, but in my life. She's taught me so much.
Yeah.
That's
It's interesting
awesome.
that you mentioned that because, thinking we're both part of the Latino community, like I mentioned, and that's so ingrained in our culture. The idea like you don't talk back to your parent, your parents are always right. To question or doubt them is seen as
Out of, yes.
it seems like
Yeah,
crazy.
black culture too.
Yeah, and
Get
black culture
slapped.
is the
Just get
exact
slapped.
same thing.
When adults talk,
exact
you
same
have
thing.
to
It's
be
just-
quiet.
You get the chanclas in
Yeah.
Spanish culture, and black culture you get the belt.
Get
you
that
slapped.
Ooh.
Yeah. No,
But
and
you
it's
see how important it is,
it's
right?
fear. Respect brought up with fear.
And that's
it.
the worst way to do it.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
it becomes what's the word? You begin to, I can't think of the word. You have this level of not hatred, but
Fear.
yes, you fear them, but you
It's resentment.
resent. Exactly. That's the
Resent.
word I was.
Yeah.
You begin to resent them 100%. You begin to hate everything that they do, why they are the way they are,
Yeah.
why they treat you the way they do, and you start to think all these certain ways, and then that builds this hate.
And then
Yeah.
two things could happen. One is that that proud moment of he's just like me. It comes into I want to be anything but you. I want to be the opposite of you,
yeah.
and they grow up hating anything that has a relationship with your image or your way of bringing them up, and they separate or they fall into the same cycle of giving the same traumatic experiences to their children and the children of their children, which is what
Exactly.
happens in the families with intra-family trauma. That is like, okay, here we go again, because drunk parent hitting family. Okay, then the kid learns that that's supposed to do whenever he marries, and continues and continues and continues until
Absolutely.
someone breaks the cycle.
Yep.
Or someone breaks the cycle by not being able to handle it, and they take their own life, for example. And we don't acknowledge that that's a possibility. We don't think that's going to happen to us. We are exempt for that. That happens to other families. No, it could happen to anybody. And that anybody could look like the beautiful person that posts on Instagram the beautiful family picture.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what was happening before that click and before that filter that they added when they posted that. They were not necessarily hugging. You don't know that. Maybe they were just treating themselves, each other, like in a wrong way, and then just posing for the family and for everybody in the world to see such a beautiful image of you, such a beautiful casita outside with cracks inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I
So
I was doing a training last year. I was given the opportunity to lead a training, and in this training, we're talking about ways to prepare for it's prevention, you know. Excuse me. Prevention, right? Preventing coming up with plans for when you start feeling those negative feelings. What can you do to prevent you from doing something that you're not proud of? And when I was leading this training, I remember we were talking about that, the impact that a parent can have on a child. And I used this analogy, which I learned along the way. I'm not a parent, granted, but I've had experiences in life that had taught me some lessons of what it takes to take care of a child. And I found a lot that life, especially with children, is about planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
That can go either way, positively or negatively. If you plant, one of the things that I appreciate in my mom is that from a young age, she planted a seed of communication, where she always made sure to ask me how I was feeling before how I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is the kind of person to be like, hey, ¿cómo está? How are you? I'm like, I'm okay. And then she'll be like, is everything okay? Are you feeling good? Yeah, I'm feeling great, actually. Okay, great. If you need to talk, I'm here. What she was doing was planting a seed where I knew that whenever I'm not feeling okay, I can go talk to her. And sure enough, those days came where I wasn't feeling okay. Mom, I think I'm struggling with depression. She's like, okay, let's find you resources. Mom, my therapist has said that I might have anxiety. Oh, okay, then let's find you those resources. You know?
Yeah, and that finding that comfort also in that safe space of somebody validating what you're feeling, and not making you feel that what you're feeling is not true or not possible. Exactly. Or,
because
you're making a big deal, being a dramatic person or something like that. However, it's not only the seed that you plant with the words, because a lot of people can say to their children, I'm here for you, talk to me, you always have to talk to mommy or daddy or abuela. but then, no, wait, then their behavior is not matching those words, because whenever the kids are in a room where two adults or grown-ups are having a conversation, if that conversation that the kid is eavesdropping they're overhearing this interaction about life. They might be criticizing a neighbor for being in with drug problems. They're criticizing somebody that, they're just like this, that's why they cannot get a job, they're lazy. Oh, did you see how they're dressed? Oh, did you see, now it turns out that they cannot respect the family and they're trying to fall in love with their same sex. What is that? They have parents and people and adults, we have these conversations and we forget that our kids are around us. And that is the opposite of come talk to me whenever you need to say something. Because if I want to say something that is going to fall in the category of I am going to be criticized the way I heard them criticize the neighbor, then I'm not going to.
Exactly.
That door that you are opening for me is not safe, because I know how you feel about this or that. So
it's like a
be
trick.
very careful who's listening and who is affecting those words that you're saying, even if you're not directing them to your children.
And that's where I go to that negative seed, right?
Yeah.
For example, there's a family that I know, obviously I won't name them, but there's a family that I know where there's one of the biggest struggles is that their kids are very they overreact. They are very vocal when they don't like something, and it's become a problem because they have no filter. They'll be the first one to say they're not quote unquote polite.
Yes.
I'll go with that route.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, well, why? Sure enough, the parents of that family always treated each other in that way.
Yeah.
So now I saw it in their kids, and I was like, oh. seed planted. I see it. You know, and that's why I always say it's important to make sure, exactly like you said, how you're planting your seed.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying, if you're planting the seed of communication, but you're watering it with constantly screaming at your partner, what seed are you really planting?
Right.
You know?
And now that you bring up politeness.
100%.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying that 100% agree.
Yeah,
like
no,
the
no,
action's louder than words.
Absolutely. And now that you bring politeness, this is a very interesting topic because it's about, again, the things that we make or pretend to be or do just to not make ourselves look bad or to make others uncomfortable. So it's a very thin line because of course you don't want your kid to be disrespectful to anybody that is trying to be kind or generous towards you, but at the same time you don't want them to agree
You want them to be true to themselves,
or
yeah.
to say yes that I like this or I like that to anything just to be polite, right? And that's one of the beautiful things of writing for children because they are the best review ever.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
hey, you are telling me, oh, your poetry book is so beautiful. You could be lying to me. You could be very polite. You could be amazing. You could be, oh, of course.
They say the most honest people are drunk people and kids.
Yeah, and then people,
That's
oh
so
my God,
true.
they buy the book and they take it and they never read it because they don't really like poetry. They will just be nice to me.
Kids don't have time to
Kids.
spare your feelings.
Oh, come on.
You know how many kids call me
If you're not
pregnant
in-
at work?
They're not interested in the story or they
Yeah.
don't like the character or they just leave or they tell them,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to, thank you.
Yeah.
They're
Same
being
with
polite,
food.
they're
Same with anything.
amazing.
They don't like this food. I'm not eating it.
See,
Yeah.
then if a kid is gonna be judging what I'm doing and I'm being successful, then I'm really believing that I'm doing something right because yes, I mean this is a I don't know how many rotten tomatoes this would get. The kids were the ones assigning this to
Yeah. Kids will actually throw tomatoes.
Kids
if
run
they're
the
like-
world.
Oh yeah.
Kids run the world. Movies,
Yeah.
YouTube, social media,
Yeah.
TikTok.
Kids.
Kids, I mean, when we say kids, I mean like 5 to 14, you know,
Yeah.
15. That age runs the world, bro. Like,
You know, I hate to agree, but I do.
they don't, obviously adults run the world, but
Yeah. No,
we run the world for that age group.
Earlier in this episode, we said it. John Krasinski is making this movie.
Yeah.
What was his biggest inspiration?
That's what, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
His daughter.
Our age group, the older age group, caters the world for them.
If we don't acknowledge that and we don't understand how important it is, that portion of society is for two reasons. Ignorance, which it gets solved with listening and getting the tools and educating yourself. So don't be afraid to say, I am ignorant. I'm ignorant in many topics.
I say it all
and
the
I'm
time.
eager to learn more. So whenever I see something or I learn about something that is new to me, okay, I'm all ears. I need to keep learning. I need to keep finding ways to educate myself,
Yeah.
right? That's one way. Or they just shut down any possibility because they're not only they're ignorant, they're also afraid of losing power. It's a power
Yeah.
move that adults, and especially in this male-dominated world, that they do to keep the power is that whenever they see something new or something that is against or is eventually gonna take them, they take the power away from them, they prohibit it or they
There you
put
go.
the power. Of course, if they don't listen, then I'm gonna scream louder because I'm gonna be heard. And you're like, no, not really. I mean, I just hear louder screams.
Yeah.
I'm really not listening. So if you want to be listened, you have to first stop with the power trip and understand that you have to talk in a level that is a communication both ways, and not just me talking on top of you.
Mhm. Well, I just want to, we're going to start wrapping up. I just want to say,
¿Ya?
yeah.
¿Se acabó?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
We've been going for a while. I just want to thank you one more time, Susana. Like, you have no idea. Like, this is, again, and I said it for Kayla's episode, and I'll reiterate it here again. This is what My Story Matters should be. You know, it's conversations with people from the community who have a perspective on something really interesting. And what a perspective you have. You know, like, this was such... I haven't had this much fun in an episode in a while,
Mhm.
Oh.
and I just want to thank you a lot because you brought a perspective that not a lot of people are very aware of. It's not always where we can sit down and have a real conversation with a writer who writes books about all these really good topics for children. Like, think about that for a second. Like, how often do you see that?
Hidden messages, yeah.
Yeah. How often do you get to speak with someone who themselves is going through struggles, but overcomes and constantly keeps growing, right?
Yes.
It's like this is not only what Talkin Wellness is about, but this is what My Story Matters is about. This is what South Florida Wellness Network is all about.
Yeah.
The idea that no matter who you are, no matter what your path of life is, you are capable of recovering, and you are capable of moving forward, and you are capable of growth. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah,
from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Yeah, being able to see your path of wellness, and a lot of people's different paths of wellness, whether it be sports, whatever, and seeing how it ultimately gets you to where you are, into a fulfilled place in life, to where, like you said, you quit your job and you're doing something that you truly feel passionate about, and where you can not only make money and make a career out of now, but you can also help people, and you can help kids, and you can help adults to understand messages that they may not understand if you weren't able to write. So it's super cool. And that's, like Chris said, that's why we do this My Story stuff, is so we can see how throughout people's 40 years, 30 years, 70 years, we had some older.
Yeah, last week we had Aging in Recovery. Thank you so much for that support.
And you get to see how throughout their journey, how they were able to, at one moment or whenever it hits, make that true impact, or when something clicked in their life where it's like, I want to do this, I want to change. And it's super inspiring, and it's super awesome to be able to share that with people, because we do have young viewers. We have 14-year-old viewers, or 13-year-old, Kayla's Cooper, her son, and older viewers, people from different countries that may not even live the same way. Yeah, we have viewers from other countries, so it's cool to be able to share your story and let them know that, like, even though if they don't have that same story you do, they're going to have their story that's going to be able to impact the world.
Absolutely. And there are some elements that you think that you're going through this issue or this problem alone, and it only happens to you, but then you hear somebody talking about it, and then you realize that you're just a human going through something like the rest of the world. And then what you have to do is not stop and cry and feel sorry for yourself. It's actually open up, getting help, and look for help. I mean, reach out, because there are tools.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy to find the tools. It's not easy to go to someone about something that hurts you, or it's just you have to open up, and then probably the first time that you open up, it's not going to be the right match for you. You have to find another expert. I mean, don't give up, because eventually you're gonna find something that works for you and that helps you during this journey. That it's a healing journey, and it's constantly moving, because it's not that you're gonna, oh my God, yes, I'm already better. Of course, I got cured, because tomorrow, again, another pandemic. I don't know. So something happens tomorrow that you are like, what's happening? And then you are, at least with some tools that are going to help you to manage whatever life is going to continue bringing and throwing at you. I really appreciate you guys opening the doors of this beautiful place, this beautiful space. I hope that this episode helps others, and especially that brings awareness about the things that we should be talking about the Brunos that we all have, and
absolutely.
And then that you see somebody and then you think they're just thriving, but you never know. So be kind to others, because you don't know their story, and especially be kind to yourself. That's kind of like my wish for everybody to take from this conversation. That is beautiful.
That reminded me of my principal. My principal in high school, he used to always say something before, like he would end the announcements, and he would say, "Be kind, for tomorrow is not always promised." Yeah. And it's such a simple message, but it's so true. And it's like, he could do so many things to do or say, but it's like he chose to be kind before passing, because kindness is the most important thing you can do. Kindness stems from love, and when you have kindness in your heart, you can do so many things for people, and you can do so many things for yourself.
Kindness can change the world.
There's
100%.
another lyric from Hamilton where he says that what is a legacy? And legacy is a seed you get to plant in a garden that you don't get to see grow.
Yes.
So it's beautiful because you think about the immediate gratification or something that I'm doing. I want to see the results right now. Some of the things that we do, most of the things that we do are not going to be seen or impactful at that moment. The results are going to be in the future, in your family, in your children, in your grandchildren, and then that's a legacy. And I don't want to be remembered for the success or the awards and the things. Those are beautiful, of course. I love them and I brag about them. That's beautiful. Be proud of what you do and your talent, but be proud for your actions and the things that people are going to remember you for the person that you are, not for your achievements and the things that you do to shine, but to help others shine as well.
Awesome.
Susana, please plug your stuff. Where can people find you? Where can to buy your books? Where they need to go?
Okay, it's very easy. It's susanaillera.com. Illera is Illera.
I was gonna say, you want to spell that out?
Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
We'll put it in the description. Susana Illera, Susana Illera.com. And there's also another website, vientoyluna.com. I have my little bookstore online, and I have my bio, my information. There you can find all my social profiles. And I hope we connect. Please send me messages, send me emails, comment on my posts. I mean, it makes me happy. Forget about the growth about being viral or something like that. I mean, it's just what I love to.
We love our comments too, for sure.
Yes, because you can tell that somebody was.
You're touching someone. Yeah.
Yes, and it's beautiful. Definitely.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, of
Awesome.
course.
Well, you guys know what to do. Please like, subscribe, share the podcast so more people get impacted by what we talk about here on the couches. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure to rate us, please. A 5-star rating goes a long way for the podcast. It can help spread more people, to spread the podcast to more people in more countries too. You know, we have many different countries listening to us. So
Definitely want Colombia listening to this one.
Absolutely, yeah. Colombia, claro que
we
sí.
might do an episode in Espanol.
We've done one already, actually.
We did one,
one.
Yeah, but we need an official one for Talkin Wellness. Yeah. So please do all those stuff. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you get notified every single time we post. And as always, stay well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
This is the first poem I wrote in English, and it was back in March of 2021. It's called Lipstick. We tend to measure strength by the amount of weight we can carry, by the number of things we can handle, by the amount of pain we can endure. We tend to believe success is determined by how many hours we can keep working non-stop, by the money that sits in our bank account, and by the price of the clothes we own. We tend to feel we're moving only if we run, only if we win, only if we leave everyone else behind. We tend to measure growth with great achievements, only to forget we grow every time we open our eyes and our soul feels eager to start a new day. We grow by the simple yet meaningful act of putting on lipstick.